Hello, what's going on everyone? And we're going to take a look at a block level and inline level element in this video. Okay, and it's actually very crucial that we take a look at that because we use them quite a lot of time in our web development even without knowing. We use them in areas like we creating menu bars and even creating like boxes on our web page, something like a responsive boxes or pricing tables on a web page. Okay, but it's important that we know what they are and how they actually behave in a web page. So when we talk about block level element, it's a type of HTML element that will not allow any other element to stay on the same line with them, even if their content is actually so small. They will not allow any other element to stay on the same line with them on a particular web page. So they push every other element down to the next line. Okay, whereas that of the inline level element, it behaves in such a way that if the space that is actually left after it has taken its own space is enough for the next element that is actually allowing it, that is actually coming in, it's going to go ahead and allow that element to actually occupy that space. Okay, so, and I want you to also note that you can actually convert inline level element to block level element and also convert block level element back to something like inline level element. All these things are actually convertible. Okay, we may not do the conversion in here because that has to do with CSS, but then you need to actually see all of the tags that are actually associated with block level element and that of the inline level element. So without wasting more time, I want to get in right now and then begin to write some codes so that you actually get yourself familiarized with them right now. You're welcome to the coding environment. So the first thing I want to do is to throw in our HTML boilerplate. You can pause the video to type this out, and it's really not hard at all. So the first thing I want to do is to enter the title right here. So I'm going to just call this, let's go ahead and call this block. So that's the title right there, block and inline level element. And then, so that's just the title right there. And what I want to do right now, let's go ahead and save this web page immediately. So I'm going to go to file, then save as, and then we can go to our desktop. And this is the folder we've been working on. So we could just call this something like block and inline element. So we could just basically just say HTML right here, and then we'll save that, and the page is actually saved. So if we go to if you open this up, you notice that we have that particular page opened, but we do not have anything in that page. So we're going to put some certain things within this particular page. But before I do that, what I want to do first of all is to change the background of that web page. So I'm going to just let me just enter style attribute right here, and we can just say something like background, and we can go ahead and just, maybe you could just call this something like black. Okay, and then the color of the text, we could just set it to something like let's set that to something like white right there. Okay, so this is going to be white, and we can save the web page. So if we refresh, you should see a page that is actually black like this. Okay, so all right, so just like we established that block level and inline level element, we said that block level element does not actually allow any other elements to stay on the same line with them. They just take the full width. No matter how small the content of such an element is, it's not going to allow another element to stay on the same line with it unless you do some conversions anyway, which is something that has to be done with CSS. All right, so but for now, we are going to basically mention a few elements that are block level elements, and number one is actually h1 element. In fact, all the headings in our HTML is actually block level element. Okay, so if I say something like hello, even though that particular text is actually very small, you're going to notice something. I'm going to save this page right now and then refresh, and okay, so we're not seeing anything, and basically maybe we did not actually type the color correctly, so this should be well spelled this way. This should be white right there. Okay, so we have a text that is actually called hello right there. So if let's say I do something like h2 right here and say something like hi, and then we can go ahead and close the h2 right here, save that, then go back to the development environment, refresh, you see that we have hi on the next line. Okay, so this text is actually so short that it doesn't actually take the full width of this particular environment. But if you take a look at it very well, you see that it took this whole width. It does not actually allow this particular text to. Okay, so what I want to do, let me offer a little style right here. Let me just call this style, and let's say that the style is actually going to let's basically just say something like border, and let's say that the border is actually going to be 2 pixels solid white. Okay, and save that. I just want you to basically see the extent to which that is actually occupying that particular space. You see that? So it takes the whole width of the web page that you are actually saying. So the same thing applies to heading 2. So if I copy this right now and I put that to heading 2, you're going to notice that the same thing actually happens right there. Okay, see how they are basically like taking the whole width of the web page. They are not allowing any other element to come next to them. All right, so that's just basically what that is. Let me just copy this and then maybe do something like let's say H6 right here. Okay, just to prove that all the heading elements anyways are actually block level elements. So you see that this one is H6, and when you take a look at that, you see that you still take the full width of that particular web page. Okay, so let's change the text here to something like let's say goodbye. Okay, so that's the text in there, but still occupied the whole width of the web page. Okay, so we can now establish that all HTML let's maybe put a paragraph right here and say all headings in HTML are block level elements. Then go ahead and then close that right there. Okay, so that's just the establishment that we can actually give to this right now. We can also in turn try to mention another element that is actually also block level element, and we've actually already made use of that, and that's this particular p tag that we have in here. Okay, so if you take a look at this p tag, you see that it's also a block level element. For instance, if I copy this right now and I kind of paste that right here, and let's say we change this to something like let's say yellow, and we'll save that. If we refresh, you're going to notice that it still also takes the full width of that particular space that is actually available to it. So if you copy it and then maybe put another one paragraph underneath, let us even shorten, let's say we shorten the content that is actually in here. If we shorten it to this way, and I'm going to paste what I copied already and also shorten this. Let's shorten this like that. I know it doesn't actually make any sense, but let's just shorten that. You see that we have very little amount of text in here, but instead of this one actually coming to occupy the rest of the space that is actually available up here, it did not actually do that. Rather, it stayed on a different line. Okay, so with that, we've also established that paragraph text are also block level elements. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is to copy and paste all the block level elements that we have in web development or in HTML, so that you can actually experiment with them on your own, and then we can then move on to inline level elements. All right, so I basically have added those other elements or tags that are actually block level elements. And what I want you to just understand is that these things that you're seeing right here are just HTML entities, just to create something like greater than sign and then less than sign. Okay, so this one is for less than sign and this one is for greater than sign, just typically to be able to create this and this. Okay, because if I do it in such a way that I add the brackets straight, if this one will actually get rendered on the web page, it's going to render it as HTML source code. It's going to render it as HTML source code, so it's not going to basically render it as me being able to print out the brackets on the screen. Okay, so I want you to take a look at the thing that I have on this page, and you can browse and then be able to find more. Okay, you may not even have to worry yourself about what this and then this particular thing actually means. Okay, so the simple summary is that this is less than sign and this is greater than sign, and it's the same all through within this particular list that I have in here. So let me just save this, and if we go back to the browser, and then notice that I kind of printed all the block level elements, okay, that you can actually encounter as you code along. Okay, so that's just basically what that is. And the next thing we need to do is to move on to the inline style. Okay, so we could label this a lot better. Could label that. Maybe we should just go to down here, and I basically want to even take this away. Let's put it down to that particular place, and we can just basically say something like, let's take this away also and say all the block level elements are below. Okay, so let's just say something of that nature, and then yeah, basically that's just what that is. So the next thing we need to jump into right now is going to be that of the inline level element. So we can just get down here, and maybe this time around we're going to start off with that of the history, and we can just basically say, we could just call this inline level elements. We can close the history here. And if you don't know what inline level elements actually is, it's just elements that basically allow other elements to stay on the same line with them. Okay, so to do that, or to give an example right now, let's just put that in the paragraph and just say example. All right, so the first one I want us to basically take a look at right now is going to be the a tag. Okay, that's anchor tag. And to do that, if I just say something like href, anyway, I believe that you guys already know what anchor tag is. Just a way of linking to different files or different web pages on your application. Okay, and let's say something like I want to copy, let me just say an anchor tag is an inline level element. Okay, I do not actually need that. So if I save this right now and then I refresh this web page and let's scroll down to that section, you see I have this right here. Okay, and I want to like change the background right there. So this is going to be style, and let's say that the background is actually going to be, and let's go ahead and call that something like white. Save that, and the background of that particular text is actually white. Okay, so let's say for instance, if I have another A tag right now, I want to copy the same thing and then put it on the next line. You're going to notice something right now. So if I paste that and let's say something like, let's say like click here to visit my website. And then if I save this right now, I just want you to watch what is actually going to happen. So if I refresh, you see that that next line actually come on the same line as the previous one that we have. Okay, let me increase this font so that you guys can actually see that very well. So let's say that this is going to be font size, and let's just make sure that that's actually 2em, and you can do the same thing for the next one. So I'm going to copy this and then put it right here, and if you save right now, and that text should be a little bit bolder so that you guys can actually see it very well. Okay, so you see what we have in here right now, that we have the first one right there, which says an anchor tag is an inline level element, and we have the second one down here that says click here to visit my website, which in the previous one, had it been no matter how small it actually is, it will not allow them to actually stay on the same line with the other type of element. Okay, so it happens in such a way that it's this particular one called inline element allows other elements to actually stay on the same line with them, unless maybe the line has actually exceeded the space that is actually available to it. So as far as there is this small space that this can actually allow, it will just go ahead and accommodate that particular thing in there. Okay, so that's just the major difference between that of the inline element and that of the block level element. Okay, so block level element does not allow any other element to stay on the same line with them. They just protect the environment, and that of the inline element actually allows. Okay, so this is a tag. We also have another one that is actually called the anchor tag. So down here, not really anchor tag, but span. So has span, and let's say error. This form must be filled out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and then close the span right there, and then if we save, I want to still copy this title to it. So I'm going to copy that, put it in here, and then let's change basically let it just be like that. If we go back and then refresh, you see that we kind of have that right there, but I think the text is not actually in white color. So this is span 2em, and the color of the color is actually not here, so I'm going to just say color, and let's call this something like let's call that black. And you see that we'll have that text actually also displayed on the same line as those other ones that we'll have in here. Okay, so that's just basically how that works. And even if it is an image, you see that it's also going to be displaying on the same line, because an image is also an inline level element. So what I'm going to do next is to just do the same thing that I did with this. Okay, so I want to basically copy and paste all the examples of inline level elements on the same page for us. Okay, so inline level element, I'm going to just go ahead and then paste the tags that you are basically going to be encountering this type of behavior on your web page with. All right, so I have that basically copied and then pasted, and this is the full list, guys, so you can take your time to take a look at it. And yeah, so that just it stopped right here. Okay, and I think I don't know why I added this earlier. Let me just take that away. Okay, so this is just what it is. So if you come to our development environment right here and we want to basically refresh, so if we refresh here right now, you're going to see that that part is actually going to come in, and if you scroll down, you're going to see the full list of all of those inline elements. Okay, inline element that you can actually make use of as you code along. Okay, so that's just what I want to show you in this video. But before I actually close, I want you to also know that these things that we have in here, you can actually convert them. You can convert them from inline level element to block level element, and you can also convert those other ones that are here from block level element to inline level element if you want. Okay, that are really possible, but that has to do with that of the CSS, and maybe we should encounter that as we move along someday. So that is just what this, and I will see you in the next one. If you like this, just give the video a like, and if you have any questions, you can drop a question at the comment section, and then I will see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.